Welcome back to our channel, where we uncover the hidden truths of history that shaped our world. Today we delve into a haunting tale of exploitation and suffering, King Leopold's mass killing of over 10 million Africans, beast of the Belgian Congo. Brace yourself as we unravel the darkest depths of humanity that unfolded in the heart of Africa. In the late 19th century, as European powers competed for global dominance, King Leopold II of Belgium seized an opportunity that would forever stain the annals of history. He laid claim to the vast territory of the Congo Free State, disguising his intentions under the banner of philanthropy and civilization. Little did the world know the horrors that awaited the Congolese people. Under the guise of progress, King Leopold unleashed a reign of terror that decimated communities and shattered lives. The pursuit of wealth and power fueled his insatiable appetite for rubber and ivory, driving the exploitation of the Congolese people and their land. The atrocities that followed were unimaginable. Forced labor became the norm as men, women, and children toiled under the whip's relentless lash, tasked with meeting impossible quotas. Villages were plundered and their resources seized without remorse. The price for non-compliance was severe mutilation, torture, and death. The screams of the innocent echoed through the dense rainforests of the Belgian Congo. The consequences were catastrophic. The Congolese people endured unimaginable suffering, their lives torn apart by a ruthless colonial regime. Families were torn asunder, communities decimated, and generations scared. Over 10 million lives perished under King Leopold's tyrannical rule, leaving behind a trail of grief and despair that still reverberates today. The true extent of King Leopold's atrocities remained hidden for years, shrouded in a web of propaganda and denial. However, brave journalists and human rights activists eventually brought these horrors to light, exposing the dark underbelly of the Congo Free State. Their relentless pursuit of justice and truth sparked international outrage and condemnation, marking a turning point in the fight against colonial oppression. Join us as we navigate this grim chapter of history, exploring the legacy and impact of King Leopold's mass killing in the Belgian Congo. We pay homage to the millions of lives lost, seeking to ensure their stories are never forgotten. By shedding light on this dark past, we strive to create a better future, a future where justice, compassion, and equality prevail. The late 19th century was a period when European powers were engaged in fierce competition to expand their empires and exploit the vast resources of the African continent. It was against this backdrop that King Leopold II of Belgium seized a significant opportunity and laid claim to the expansive territory of the Congo Free State as his personal possession. King Leopold II, driven by a deep sense of ambition and a desire to expand Belgium's influence, sought to secure his own slice of Africa. Henry Morton Stanley, a renowned explorer and journalist, played a significant role in setting the stage for King Leopold II's atrocities in the Congo, although it's important to note that his direct involvement in the specific acts of violence and exploitation is a matter of historical debate. Stanley's expeditions in the Congo region, particularly his exploration and mapping of the Congo River, provided crucial information and geographical knowledge to King Leopold II. This information proved instrumental in King Leopold's subsequent exploitation of the region's resources and the establishment of his brutal regime in the Congo Free State. It was Stanley's exploration and surveys that offered valuable insights into the vast natural resources of the Congo, including rubber and ivory. This knowledge fueled King Leopold's ambitions to extract immense wealth from the region, leading to forced labor, violence, and the loss of millions of lives. He recognized the potential wealth and resources of the Congo, which was largely unexplored and untapped at the time. However, instead of pursuing colonization in the traditional sense, King Leopold opted for a cunning strategy. He cunningly presented himself as a champion of humanitarian causes, seeking to bring civilization, progress, and Christianity to the so-called Dark Continent. To achieve his objectives, King Leopold established the Congo Free State in 1885. Under the facade of a philanthropic endeavor, he managed to secure international recognition for his personal possession, granting him sole ownership and control over the vast territory. This status allowed him to exploit the region's natural resources, primarily rubber and ivory, with little to no oversight or interference from other European powers. If you are still watching this video, it means you love it. Why not take out a second and hit the like button? This helps this video reach more people to know about this dark history. Have you done that? Let's move on. While other European colonial powers were driven by similar motivations, King Leopold's approach in the Congo was distinct. His rule was characterized by direct and personal ownership, as opposed to colonization by a nation-state. This distinction allowed him to operate with impunity, without being bound by the constraints of governmental institutions or international regulations. Under the deceptive veil of philanthropy and civilization, King Leopold II of Belgium imposed a reign of terror upon the Congolese people, revealing the true nature of his rule in the Belgian Congo. Driven by an insatiable greed for profit and control, King Leopold's actions resulted in the systematic exploitation and abuse of the Congolese population. Forced labor became the cornerstone of King Leopold's rule. The Congolese people were subjected to horrific conditions and forced to work on rubber plantations and in mines under the harshest of circumstances. Men, women, and children were conscripted into labor gangs, often with no regard for their well-being or basic human rights. Brutality and violence were pervasive throughout the Congo under King Leopold's regime. Congolese workers who failed to meet rubber quotas or resisted the exploitative system were subjected to severe punishments. These included mutilation, whipping, torture, and even death. Entire villages were decimated, and their populations terrorized into submission. The quest for control and profit drove King Leopold to implement a policy known as the Red Rubber System. This system involved the extraction of rubber from wild rubber vines in the Congo's rainforests. Local communities were forcibly mobilized to collect rubber, with quotas imposed on them. Failure to meet these quotas resulted in severe consequences, including the abduction of family members or the burning of entire villages. The devastating impact of King Leopold's rule extended beyond forced labor and violence. The Congolese people faced rampant disease, malnutrition, and displacement as a result of ruthless exploitation. Traditional ways of life were disrupted, cultural practices eroded, and communities torn apart. Moreover, King Leopold's regime created a system of ruthless intermediaries who acted as enforcers of his exploitative policies. These agents, often referred to as Chicotiers, were responsible for inflicting punishment upon the Congolese people. They were notorious for their use of the shikot, a whip made from raw rubber, to lash victims, leaving them scared both physically and emotionally. During King Leopold II's reign in the Congo Free State, one of the most harrowing aspects was the brutal treatment inflicted upon the Congolese people who failed to meet the imposed rubber quotas. This resulted in widespread maiming and killing as a means of punishment and coercion. Under King Leopold's regime, the extraction of rubber became a primary focus due to its high demand in European markets. To ensure a steady supply of rubber, quotas were imposed on the Congolese population, often under extremely harsh and unrealistic conditions. When individuals or communities failed to meet these rubber quotas, severe punishments were meted out as a means of enforcing compliance. The punishments were intended to instill fear and act as a deterrent against resistance or rebellion. They were deliberately brutal and designed to maintain control over the Congolese population. One of the most common methods of punishment was maiming, specifically amputations. Congolese individuals, including men, women, and even children, who failed to meet their quotas would often have their hands or other limbs amputated by colonial officials or their agents. This act of mutilation served as a visible reminder of the consequences of non-compliance and as a means to terrorize others into submission. Furthermore, the killings of Congolese people were tragically commonplace. Executions were carried out as punishment for resistance, rebellion, or simply as a display of power and control. Entire villages were often subjected to mass killings as a form of collective punishment for not meeting the rubber quotas. The violence and cruelty inflicted upon the Congolese population in response to quota failures were perpetrated by a range of individuals, including Belgian colonial officials, their agents, and local enforcers. These acts of violence were carried out with impunity, as King Leopold's regime operated outside the bounds of international scrutiny or accountability. The maiming and killing of Congolese people who failed to meet their rubber quotas represent the extreme brutality and disregard for human life that characterized King Leopold II's rule in the Congo Free State. The legacy of these atrocities continues to haunt the collective memory of the Congolese people and serves as a grim reminder of the profound injustices endured during this dark chapter in history. The Congolese population faced not only the direct violence and exploitation inflicted upon them, but also the devastating impact of diseases and the burning of villages. These factors combined to cause the death and displacement of millions of people, further contributing to the immense suffering endured by the Congolese population. Diseases spread rapidly throughout the Congo under King Leopold's regime, primarily due to the harsh living and working conditions imposed upon the Congolese people. Forced labor, malnutrition, and unsanitary living conditions created a breeding ground for various illnesses, leading to widespread epidemics and loss of life. One of the most significant diseases that ravaged the region was sleeping sickness, also known as African trypanosomiasis. Transmitted by the tsetse fly, this parasitic disease attacked the central nervous system, causing severe fatigue, neurological problems, and ultimately death if left untreated. Sleeping sickness spread rapidly, affecting both the Congolese population and the European administrators and agents who operated in the region. Other diseases, such as malaria, dysentery, and various respiratory infections, were also prevalent in the Congo. The lack of adequate healthcare infrastructure, limited access to medical resources, and the disruption of traditional healing practices exacerbated the impact of these diseases. The Congolese people, already weakened by forced labor and malnutrition, were particularly vulnerable to these illnesses, resulting in high mortality rates. In addition to the devastating toll of diseases, the burning of villages was a brutal tactic employed by colonial forces during King Leopold's rule. When communities resisted or failed to meet the imposed quotas, entire villages would often be burned as a means of punishment and intimidation. The burning of villages served multiple purposes for the colonial administration. It aimed to destroy the economic and social structures of the targeted communities, ensuring their dependence on the colonial apparatus. It also sought to eliminate any potential centers of resistance or rebellion, as well as to create a climate of fear that would discourage others from challenging colonial authority. The burning of villages resulted in the displacement of countless Congolese families, forcing them to flee their homes and seek refuge in unfamiliar territories. This disruption of communities, coupled with the loss of property and resources, further destabilized the lives of the Congolese people and contributed to their suffering. The combined impact of diseases and the burning of villages was catastrophic for the Congolese population. Millions of lives were lost, families were torn apart, and entire communities were uprooted and traumatized. The physical and psychological scars left behind by these atrocities continue to affect the Congo and its people to this day. The diseases and the burning of villages under King Leopold II's rule stand as somber reminders of the immense human cost and the depths of cruelty inflicted upon the Congolese people. Eventually, the horrifying truth of King Leopold's brutal rule in the Congo could no longer be concealed, thanks to the relentless efforts of investigative journalists and courageous human rights activists. Their dedication to exposing the atrocities committed in the Congo Free State sparked an international outcry and led to a significant investigation into the crimes of King Leopold II. Journalists such as Edmund Morel and Roger Casement played pivotal roles in bringing the plight of the Congolese people to the world's attention. Through their writings and advocacy, they exposed the systemic violence, forced labor, and mass killings inflicted upon the Congolese population under King Leopold's reign. The damning evidence presented by these journalists, combined with eyewitness testimonies and photographs, shattered the carefully constructed facade of philanthropy and progress that King Leopold had propagated. The shocking reports of severed hands, burned villages, and the suffering endured by millions of Congolese captivated the global public's attention. The international community could no longer turn a blind eye to the atrocities taking place in the heart of Africa. Outrage and condemnation grew, spurring governments, human rights organizations, and public figures to demand accountability and justice for the Congolese people. Under mounting pressure, an international investigation into the Congo Free State was initiated. This investigation aimed to document the extent of the atrocities and assess the human rights abuses committed under King Leopold's rule. The investigation gathered further evidence and testimonies from survivors, further exposing the horrors and solidifying the international community's determination to put an end to the reign of terror in the Congo. The international outcry and investigation marked a turning point in the narrative surrounding King Leopold's rule. It shattered the illusion of a benevolent enterprise and revealed the true face of exploitation and violence. The atrocities committed in the Belgian Congo became a global symbol of the devastating consequences of unchecked colonial power and the urgent need for international standards and accountability. While the investigation and subsequent pressure led to changes in the administration of the Congo Free State, it is essential to acknowledge that justice for the Congolese people remained elusive. The impact of King Leopold's actions and the legacy of colonialism in the Congo continue to resonate, highlighting the ongoing struggle for justice, healing, and reconciliation. The legacy of King Leopold's rule in the Belgian Congo is a haunting reminder of the depths of human cruelty and the devastating impact of unchecked colonialism. The atrocities committed during this dark chapter in history have far-reaching implications that continue to resonate today. The legacy, impact, and conclusions drawn from King Leopold's reign in the Belgian Congo shape our understanding of global human rights standards and inspire movements for decolonization. King Leopold's rule in the Belgian Congo left a lasting impact on history and serves as a powerful lesson for humanity. The legacy of suffering and exploitation underscores the necessity of upholding human rights and preventing the abuse of power. It also reinforces the imperative for global solidarity, justice, and the recognition of the rights and dignity of all people, regardless of their race or nationality. The atrocities committed during King Leopold's reign should never be forgotten. They should serve as a call to action, inspiring us to challenge injustice, promote equality, and work towards a world where the mistakes of the past are not repeated. By learning from this dark chapter in history, we strive to create a future where human rights are upheld, colonial legacies are confronted, and the dignity and well-being of all people are respected.